All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cleaning Professionals Podcast. I'm Seth.
And I'm Patrick.
All right, Patrick, we're going to have a little bit of a fun episode today. What are we going to talk about?
Today we're going to talk about our craziest client stories. I know I got a lot, so I had to narrow it down. And honestly, I'm not even going to say these are the craziest. These are some of the ones that come to mind. So it's going to be kind of a fun episode. I know all you guys out there listening have experienced crazy stories about clients and jobs. And today me and Seth are just going to share a few of ours. So anyways, Seth, you want me to get started with the first story?
Yeah, you go ahead and start us off. So
this one actually, and by the way, I tried to choose some fairly recent ones because I have really old ones. But, I've been doing this a long time, so I could tell a lot. I could be here all day telling stories. But I tried to pick some of the truly craziest ones and some of the more recent ones. So this was about a year ago. It was actually last summer, maybe a little more than a year. And my technician and I, a guy that works for me, one of my guys, his name's Jacob, we went to a job, and this was actually a repeat client I'd never cleaned for, but my dad had cleaned for years ago. Okay, by years ago, I don't really know if it was 5, 6, or 7 years, but it was several years back. And we get through the house, fairly nice home. Looks from the outside, it looks pretty decent. Lady comes in the door. She's in her 60s, approximately. So she's an older client. And when we get on the inside of the house, the first thing I notice is the carpets are just atrocious. I mean, they're in horrible condition, and not like just filthy, more like just damaged. You could tell there was just a ton of residue. She had been trying to clean it herself. There was a lot of color damage, bleach damage. The carpets just really need to be replaced. And my policy is always honesty. I'm honest with the client, and I tell her out of the gate, carpets really need to be replaced, ma'am. They're in horrible condition. You got a number of things going on here. You got filtration lines. You have severe, discoloration. You have a lot of bleach damage. You have all these different issues. And she said she understood that. So then we started talking about the scope of the cleaning. And I forget all the rooms, but there was quite a few rooms. And I asked her what she wanted done. Did she want furniture moved? And we always ask the client, because we do move furniture if they would like. We charge more for it, but we'll do it. Yeah. And she says, no, I just want the traffic lanes done. So I give her a price to pretty much clean all the traffic lanes. And this is after I explained to her that the carpet really needs to be replaced. So she agrees to everything, agrees to the price. She tells me I'm high, I'm expensive, and it's gone up since the last time we cleaned it, which of course this has been, I'm just guessing, again, 6 or 7 years. So of course the price has gone up. So to make a long story short, me and my guy, we get started in the back of the house. And so we're cleaning away. And we get done with the second room, I believe, and I've done a bedroom and I've cleaned the office, and now we're on the living room. And as I'm cleaning the living room, I turn around and I notice that Jacob's gone. And Jacob, at the time, my helper, he's like my main guy now. He goes out and does a lot on his own, but at the time he was like my number one helper. He was always a really great helper. And so I noticed he was gone. Nobody was pulling my hose. Nobody was helping me out. And so I look around, I'm like, where's Jacob? So after about 5 minutes, I'm like, I don't know where he went, so I'm going to go looking for him. So as I go back towards where we started in the house, she's got him hemmed up, and Jacob has an end table pulled out, another piece of furniture pulled out, and he's on his hands and knees with the product that we use for filtration line removal, and he's scrubbing filtration lines. So I ask him what he's doing, and he tells me, he's like, well, she came to me and said she was unhappy, and that, the edges look terrible, and that y'all aren't moving this and that. And I said, Jacob, we already went over with her all this. Like, she told me she didn't want filtration lines removed. She told me she didn't want any furniture moved. So, I'm like, don't do that anymore. So at this point, she's gone. I'm like, so we slide it back, have to block it, pad it. I'm like, listen, Jacob, I said, come get me if she tells you anything else like that. Like, we did not price this job to move her furniture and clean the edges and do filtration removal. So at this point, we're back in the living room, and we get done in there. On the other side of the house, we got 2 more bedrooms to do. So we're cleaning all those bedrooms. Well, at this point, she comes and she stops me and she confronts me and tells me that the edges look bad, and that we're not moving anything. And so me and her started to have a conversation about what is expected. And I explained to her, I said, listen, we went over all this. I said, you specifically told me you did not want filtration lines removed. You weren't worried about it. I said, you specifically told me that you did not want us to move furniture. And so she starts to get really hostile with me. And she tells me that for what I'm charging, I should just be doing that. That's expected. I should move all the furniture. That's part of the carpet, she says. So I said, well, ma'am, with all due respect, I said, honestly, I said, it's not. And I said, we charge more for that. That's just our policy. I charge you just for traffic lanes. So it kind of turns into a thing with me and her. She tells me at that point, she says, well, when your dad cleaned it, and, this comes up from time to time. She says, when your dad cleaned it, he moved all my furniture. And he did this and he did that. Well, come to find out, I talked to him, and that's not true. But that's for later on in the story. So, but she tells me he did this, he did that, it was just all included. He did everything. He moved all my furniture and yada, yada, yada. And I said, well, ma'am, I said, me and you had a clear conversation beforehand. I said, we discussed this, not long ago, and we talked about it. So here's where the story takes a really crazy turn, like a beyond bizarre turn. So I can tell she's unhappy. At this point, I'm just trying to clean and get done with the job. I can kind of tell she's the type of person that likes to try to bully you, get something for nothing. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm trying to get out of the last room. So I'm like, let's just get this job done, because I'm not really getting anywhere with her trying to explain things. It's really just more me and her turning into an argument, and I don't like to argue with customers. So as I finish up this last room, she pretty much comes up to me and tells me that, she's really unhappy and so on and so forth. But when I come back and we come out of the last room, I'm like, how do I need to handle this situation? But I turn around and I look at her, and she's standing there in nothing but a bra. And she's taking her top off.
Okay.
Yeah, I swear. I'm not. You can ask Jacob. So she's standing there in nothing but a bra. And she just proceeds to let me have it in a bra. And I'm like, I'm so shocked. Jacob's shocked. You should see the look on his face. So at this point, I'm like, I realize I'm not dealing with somebody that's playing with a full deck. Because this is a 60-some-year-old woman. She's standing there talking to me literally. Like at what point she took her top off, I don't know. But I'm realizing, like, wow, this is like something's going on, because I knew we had a plain conversation. We were really, everything was out in the open beforehand. I discussed with her the condition of the carpet, the scope of the work, and then all of a sudden at the drop of a hat, she changes. And then when this happens, I realize, like, something's going on. So I don't really know. I don't know if she's having a crazy bad day. I don't know if there's something going on upstairs or whatever, but I just know I want to collect the check and get out of here. So to make a long story short, we get done with that job. We pull our hoses out. Jacob starts packing up. I go in there, and she tells me she's very unhappy. And she said, I'm going to pay you, but I just want you to know, as she's writing the check, she said, I'm never going to call you again. And I'm very, what should you say? Like, I really always try to smooth it over with clients. But I just told her, I said, yes, ma'am, I understand, that's fine. And she handed me the check, and we left it at that. And honestly, to this day, that's probably the most negative interaction I've ever had with a client. But it was so bizarre that I was just happy to be out of the house.
Yeah, I bet so.
And that's probably like one of my top crazy stories.
Yeah, that was definitely crazy. Had a nice twist to it too.
Yeah. And when I told my wife about it, she couldn't believe it. It was really, like I said, to this day, and I hope the woman never calls back, but she's the type of person I wouldn't be surprised if she does.
Yeah, she probably will. She probably forgotten completely about it. So, yeah.
So tell us one of yours, Seth.
Well, this one's, I'll start off with actually one of the ones, it was me and my dad, probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago. He had somebody call him, wanting him to go to an apartment to clean this apartment, and it was on the third floor. So it was a long hose run. So we ended up having to go over the banister to go into it. And so he's having me go in there and get the vacuum cleaner to vacuum it out and stuff. And you walk into a lot of these apartments like this, they're typically just nasty. Just the beige carpet will be completely black. And sure enough, that's the way this was here with this. And there's a lady in there. She's probably same thing in her 60s, maybe 70s. And what stands out immediately, she's got a big 40-ounce Colt 40 drinking from it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that caught my eye, of course. And she was real nice, real friendly. She had blaring on the TV like some gospel preaching and singing and stuff like that. And
nothing better than to kick back with 40 and listen to some preaching.
That's right. Way to enjoy the night, right?
That's right.
So anyway, it's in the middle of winter, so it's like 30 degrees outside. She's got the heat going as high as it'll go because I walk over to look and it's set on 90. And so that kind of stands out too, but it's not warm in there. And the reason it's not warm in there is because she has the front balcony wide open, like completely open. And I asked her, so you want me to close this? She goes, no, I'm going in and out. She said, leave it open. So I was like, okay, this lady's obviously a little crazy. And so we get to cleaning and stuff. And I'm pulling my dad some extra hose. And she had like these plants that had probably been dead for 5 years, right? I mean, they're completely brown, nothing to them. And as I'm pulling it in, like it hits one of the leaves and knocks it off. And as I'm going in, I turn around and she's like this close to my face. And she's like, you killed my plant. And I was like, I'm sorry. I said, say that again. She said, you killed my plant. And, she calls me a couple of choice words. And then, so I was kind of like in that situation. I could either escalate it or de-escalate. I can, deny it and be like, no, I didn't, I just knocked off a leaf. But I was like, I'm sorry. You forgive me. And she kind of shocked. She's like, I guess I have to, don't I? She says, in the Bible. So I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I got her. So she was fine with that. So we go back to cleaning, and she says, I'm going to leave. I got to go to my friend's house. So she leaves for like 2 minutes and then comes right back. And this time she's done drank the 40 ounces. She's got a Bud Light. I guess she went to her friend's house and picked up one of those. And so we're cleaning, and she breaks out a banana. And as we're cleaning the living room, she takes the banana and just tosses it, like half eaten on the floor. And my dad's stepping on it and stuff like that. And so I'm like, pointed out to my dad. I was like, Dad, you're stepping on that banana peel. He doesn't skip a beat like he expects it. Just picks up his vacuum hose and sucks it up and goes back to cleaning. Anyway, this lady was so crazy. She cussed us out probably 20 times. And I called my buddy, who was the one who kind of gave us the job, and was telling him about it. He's like, oh, yeah. He said, that lady's certified crazy. He said, we tried to kick her out of that apartment 3 or 4 times, and he says, we just can't get rid of her. But that was probably the one that stands out as the most crazy, the most uncomfortable I've ever been. Like, I thought this lady was going to try to stab me for killing her plant, supposedly knocking off a leaf of a dead plant.
Yeah. And I tell you, man, there's crazy people out there, and it's just a numbers game. And I always tell my guys, because if we get a call back or something, a lot of them, like I have one especially that gets really upset. He takes it really personally. And I always tell him, like, man, it's just a numbers game. If you do enough business, if you interact with enough clients, like, you're either going to have a misunderstanding, or you're going to have, a misinterpreted expectation of what, the service that was performed, or you're just going to get a hold of somebody that's just completely crazy. And I normally have a couple just crazies a year. And I always find it so interesting when I hear these guys talk about they never have callbacks. They never have, there's these certain guys that are just so great. They think they're, and they'll tell you, so that's never happened to me. And I'm thinking, man, if you do any amount of work with the public, like, you're going to run into some people that just are not, they're not playing with the full deck. And I've had that happen to me, and it's, you just have to be prepared for it and deal with it the best you can,
Yeah. So I know you got another one. Let's hear it.
Okay. So this one is an example of a client being dishonest and wanting something for nothing, and me making a mistake.
I've never had a dishonest client. Have you? One, that's it.
This is the only story. No, not really. I've had a lot of dishonest clients, but this one especially hit me hard. So this has been about 2 or 3 years ago. It was when I was first really hitting my stride as far as having guys work for me and not just doing everything myself. And I had 2 young guys. Matter of fact, they're still with us now. And Jacob and Josiah, but I think it was 3 years ago. I can't remember. I think it was 18 or 19. But I was actually in Colorado. It was the longest I'd ever went out of town. I was out of town for 2 weeks. So this was a big deal for me because they were essentially running the show while I was gone. Well, Lauren was there. My wife, of course, running the office, but they were doing all the jobs on their own. And they had went and cleaned the house. And when they got there, I remember, I think Jacob called me and said that the house was just a mess. They were renovating. There was stuff everywhere. And he had nobody was there. They had left the door unlocked, and they said that, call us and get a credit card. They told us what they wanted done. So the lady, Jacob calls me and he says, there's stuff everywhere. I don't really know what we're supposed to do. They want us to move this stuff. Do they want us to clean around it? Yada, yada, yada. So the lady pretty much says, move this thing, but clean around most of it. So that part I do remember. So I think that's what they did. It was kind of in a bad situation. I don't really like it when clients aren't there most of the time. I get it why sometimes they can't be, but I like it better when somebody's there so we can go over everything. And in this case, she was not. So to make a long story short, they cleaned it the best they could. They moved what they could. And then a week later, she calls back. And she calls back and says she's unhappy because, pretty much all the carpet didn't get cleaned. And I said, well, to be fair, I said, you weren't really clear about what you wanted moved, what you didn't want moved. There was a lot of stuff you had sitting around everywhere. You guys, they were kind of renovating the house, and they had pushed a lot of stuff onto all the carpeted areas. And so she was pretty much wanting us to come back. Well, me, with my policy with customers, and she was referred by a neighbor. I said, I just want to make this lady happy. I don't want to rock the boat. Honestly, I should have put my foot down and said, listen, no, you didn't bother to be there. And when we asked you, you weren't very specific and all that. But me being just wanting to, like I said, most of the time I kind of take the customer's right policy and I try to satisfy them. I sent my guys back out there. So that's when the story gets more interesting. So I sent them back out there, and I could tell they weren't happy about it because I was sending them out. Sorry, I had an issue there. I was sending them out on a very tight day, and but she needed it done, so I sent them back out. And lo and behold, she calls back 2 days later, and she says that they scratched her walls up. Because it was their carpet on both stories. There was carpet on the first floor, on the second floor. And so I called Jacob and I called Joe and I asked them what happened. That was my first thing. And again, I'm still out of town at this point because I was gone for 2 weeks. And they weren't really clear about it. They said, well, we don't really think that we scratched your walls up. I said, well, did you use corner guards? Well, no. And that really bothered me. And I took that kind of personally. And I'm thinking, you should have. And in my mind, I just instantly went to, I guess they were pissed off because she had called back and they were in a hurry and that they just went in there, to get it done. And honestly, I probably should have trusted my guys. And I always, this is one thing that I'll tell as a pointer. If you ever have a client call back about anything, as far as, whether or not it's something that you missed or supposed damage that you caused or whatever the case might be, the first thing you need to do is always don't do anything till you go out there and see it firsthand. Well, I didn't do that. And I just had this feeling, for some reason I had it in my mind that they did it. And so I called her. And after I talked with both of them, because they weren't really clear, because they were like, well, I don't think we did, but we could have. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, you did it. You know what I mean? So I call her back and I apologize and I tell her, what would you like for me to do? And she said, well, I want it repaired. I want it fixed. So we came to an agreement. I said, you know what? I'll just refund. How much do you think the repairs are going to cost? And it turned out it was going to be around the same amount as cleaning. So I said, I'm just going to send you your money back. So she agreed. All right, so I was out in Colorado at the time, and I didn't have good service. And I did tell her I wanted her to send me pictures of the damage. So she never sent the pictures, and I'm just thinking like, hey, it's because I'm out here. I don't have great service. So this has been like 2 weeks later. I'm back home at this point, and I get these pictures of pretty much a piece of crap house that's in the process of being renovated that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's no way that my guys didn't damage anything. That the walls were already in really poor shape. There was painting being done at the time anyways. There was baseboards that were tore off. There was moldings that were missing. This is not, in my mind, I had this image of a pristine house that my guys were dragging hoses through. And to make a long story short, after looking at all the pictures, I saw that the lady she was just wanting something for nothing. And she played me. She took advantage of me. She ended up getting her carpet cleaned for free. And my guys really didn't do anything. So a couple lessons there. One is I should have had more faith in my guys because I've never had, I mean, and all the time I've never had them tear up any walls in the years. I mean, even since then or before. And I don't think they did then. And I was shocked when I saw the condition of the house and what was going on. I mean, it was like full on renovation mode. There was nothing to be tore up. So learned a lesson there. And I also learned, I mean, had I just waited and got back and gone out and looked at the house, I would have just immediately, put my foot down and said, no, we're not doing that, because there was nothing that they did. So anyways, that's another story of mine.
That was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of guys in the forums and stuff talk about that, where the people will talk about damage done to the carpets or to the walls, like you were talking about. I remember this one guy shared a picture of the wall, and it was like 6 feet up, and he was talking about how, he told the customer, like, there's no way our hoses go up that high, and she was demanding they pay for it. And I don't remember what happened, but something similar to that.
These walls were just beat to pit. I mean, these walls, they weren't freshly painted. They weren't. It's not even about being freshly painted, I guess, but it was obvious that they were in extremely poor condition, like old. You could just tell there was none of this stuff that she had sent in the pictures were anything that they could have done. I was expecting to see. I mean, I've been doing this long enough to know what it looks like when somebody's raked a vacuum hose against the baseboard or against the corner of the wall. And it was not, I don't know how to explain it without you seeing it, but it was none of that. It was just, her stuff was old and crappy, and they were renovating, and she just wanted to try to send me pictures of, old crappy walls and baseboards and get something for free. And she played me and she got me, she got me.
Yeah. Like you said, this happens occasionally too.
Yeah.
I guess probably my next one would be, it's one I actually called you about to get your advice on. I don't know if you remember or not, but I did this lady's house. She found me on the internet. She wasn't a referral. And so she booked it through Stephanie, and Stephanie told her, we typically tell people we don't move any furniture. Now, we do move furniture, but we tell them we don't, because we want them to move most of it. And, if we get there and they have some things, we'll move it. But it's a good thing we did on this particular one, because we get to this lady's house, and had a lot of older people. They have furniture they've just accumulated over the years. Like, you go into a living room and they'll have 3 couches and 2 recliners, and there's like this much area. And so she had all the furniture originally moved. And so I was glad we told her no, basically. And so we get there, and she said she was going to have some people there to help move, and they ended up leaving, not being there. But the carpet, first off, had never been vacuumed since they owned the house, and it was probably built 15 years ago. I mean, it was that bad. It took me probably twice as long to vacuum as it did for me to clean the house. And it was 4 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. So that tells you anything. I mean, I had a huge trash bag. I started to take a picture of it and share it in the cleaners group, the Carolina Cleaners, but I ended up not doing it. Anyway, so I'm cleaning, showing her, in between the cleaning. She's there in the house. If the customer's in the house, and I'm talking to them, I generally say, come over here and look. You can see before and after, get their opinion on everything. And there was some urine. Wasn't any stains, but she complained about urine in one of the rooms, but she didn't want any type of urine treatment. So it's one of those things, right? So, I explained to her again, if there is any urine, I said, you probably won't, it's going to need some urine treatment. But I told her, I don't smell anything except for in that one bedroom. And she's like, no, I don't want to pay for any of it. So, long story short, cleaned it. Everything was good. She paid me. She said she was very happy. She's going to tell all her friends about me. And so usually the next day, Stephanie will either call or text. I'll usually ask the customer while I'm there, do you want us to call you or text you the next day? And most will say we just text me, because they don't want to be bothered with a phone call. So Stephanie sends her a text, and she never responds, which is typical. A lot of customers, unless there's an issue, they're not going to respond. Or either they're just like super happy or super pleased. They may say, yeah, everything was great. So it wasn't nothing unusual. Doesn't respond. And then our software, me and you both use Markate, and it sends out for me, it sends out a request for a referral after maybe 2 or 3 days.
Right.
So about midnight, I get an alert. I was asleep and my phone goes off, and I think I had late calls that night for my regular job. So I looked over at my phone to see what it was, make sure I didn't miss a call and have a voicemail. And it said, no, I'm not happy. And I was like, what is this coming from the Marquette app? So I click on it, and we had just done another job. That was a huge house, like a really nice job. And the same thing with that lady. She was very pleased. And at first I thought it was her, and I was like, oh no. So I got to looking through it, and I was wide awake at that point. So about 1 a.m., I finally figured out it's not the lady with the really nice house who was super nice, blah, blah, blah. it was the lady I did 2 days ago. So I was like, well, that's kind of weird. She must have just waited a day or two to open up the referral. So anyway, I waited till the next morning. I told Stephanie, I said, call her. She called, no answer, left a voicemail. Send her a text too, just to make sure she got it, and said, hey, listen, we noticed you said that you weren't happy on the review. Tell us what's going on. Never called back, never responded to the text. So I was like, well, what do you do in that situation? You tried to reach out to the customer. So it's not really a crazy story necessarily. It was just one of those things, like what would you do in that situation? Would you just kind of leave it at that, or would you pursue it further? We just kind of left it at that because we did reach out. We called her and we sent her a text, and she never responded to either one. So we figured it must have not been that big of a deal, right?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, you would think that she would be willing to at least tell you what, you know what I mean? She'd be willing to communicate. Yeah, I mean that's a tough situation, but some people are like that. I mean, there's all like I said, in this business, well, in any service business, you're going to deal with all types of people, and that's what I always try to tell. I train my guys like about being patient. And, we do a really good job. I feel like we have very few callbacks for the amount of work that we do, and most of the time you try your best to satisfy all your clients, but you have some people that you won't satisfy them, and sometimes you don't. It's not even about you. Sometimes it's just about them, or the bad day they're having, or the bad week they're having. So yeah, you have another one?
I got a real quick one. This was just kind of a weird one.
Okay, go ahead.
We did this lady's house, and as we're cleaning it and stuff, and I'm telling her, if you keep the AC down, and I got some air movers, they're going to help dry the carpet a little quicker. So if you don't mind, because I think the house is like 72 or 73 degrees, and so she cut it down to about 70. And so we're cleaning along, and I noticed we started upstairs, and when I'm coming downstairs, and I told Jaden, the guy who helps me, I said, I'm going to run upstairs and move those air movers to another room just to, get the other room dry. And I go up there, and it was facing the bedroom originally when I left. When I come back, it's facing the opposite way, like away from the room. So I thought that was kind of odd. I said, well, maybe it just kind of rotated because it was on the hardwood. So I actually put it back on the same carpet, but this time I actually put it on the carpet. And so we're cleaning again, and 30 minutes later, I go back up here to move it, and it's back in the hallway facing the other way. I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I said, well, I'm not moving it. And I asked Jaden, I said, are you moving it? He goes, no. So I asked the customer, I said, do you want us to use the air movers? She said, oh, yeah, please get them as dry as quickly as you can. And she's the only one there. So I put it back in there. And this time I make sure to put it up against the door, to where it's not going to go anywhere. There's no way. I'm sitting there and watching it. Okay, it's not vibrating. It's not moving. It's definitely not the air mover moving itself. Sure enough, I go back up there this time to bring it downstairs and put it in some of the rooms we were cleaning, and it's back in the hallway. So it's a mystery. I don't know if she was going up there and moving it or what, but
very well
it kind of baffles me. I didn't want to ask. I should have, but I asked her if you were fine with air movers, and she said yes.
Yeah. Clients do some strange things sometimes.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I have one more that I'll share with you, and this is something I'll tell. This is a story I'll share, but I'll also do like a PSA, because this is something that cleaners need to be aware of.
Uh-huh.
So first, let me tell the story.
Okay.
So this particular lady, we arrived. It was, I don't remember the particular day, but we arrived. It was our first job of the day. I want to say it was our first job of the week. I want to say it was on a Monday. So we arrived, and it's a pretty large home, and it's just full of white nylon carpet, like almost white, I say white, but it's probably slightly off white. And it is, as soon as we get there, it is a horrific urine job, like one of the worst ones I've probably done. I've seen way worse that I've just turned down. I said, you got to rip this out. But it was one of the worst ones that I actually took on and did. And so I get to looking, and there's just urine everywhere, as far as I can see. Just, she's got a little dog, and I don't know if his name was Puddles, but if it wasn't, it should have been named Puddles, because that's what it did. It left puddles all over the carpet. And there was so much yellowing in the carpet. And so I tell her up front, I'm like, listen, this carpet really should be ripped out, but if you want me to try my best to clean it, I want you to try your best to clean it. And so I said, listen, it's going to be expensive. I said, we're going to have to do a significant amount of treatment. And even then, I'm telling you, nothing's guaranteed. We'll just do the best we can. And, you really need to replace it. Well, I want you to clean it. I want you to clean it. I said, okay. So I go around, I look at everything, and I get an idea of the scope of the work, and I give her a price, and I get her to sign off saying that, we're not responsible for odors or stains that don't come out. The carpet really needs to be replaced. She signs it. I go over the price with her. She says, okay, that sounds good. Really expensive, ton of urine treatment. So we get started. We get set up on this house, and we get started, and we start treating urine everywhere. And after we do a lot of treatment, Jacob starts cleaning. The lady comes up to me, and we're in there working, and I feel like a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and I said, yes, ma'am, can I help you? She said, well, yes, you can. And she said, are you going to go over with me what any of this cost or anything about this? And I was like, literally, Seth, like we had just got done. It had been 15 minutes and going over everything with her. And so I'm kind of stunned at this point. So I go over everything again with her. And I'm like, this is what we're doing. And this makes me feel like really uncomfortable. And so I'm explaining everything to her again. And this lady seems buttoned up. She seems like she's got it together. So, but she slipped up in that second conversation, and I realized this lady, something's not right. So I get this really insecure feeling like, she's got something going on. She's got dementia. And I'm thinking are we even going to get paid? What, because that's the thing. This is a nice house. She looks like a nice, normal lady. There's no red flags. Besides, there's dog pee everywhere. But that's the case in a lot of situations. So by that time my cell phone rings, and it is her daughter. And her daughter says, my mom has severe dementia. She can't remember anything. And I don't even remember how the daughter figured out or knew that we were going to be out there, but somehow I think she had called the office, and Lauren gave her my number. And so then I explained everything to the daughter. She was fine with it. She said, that sounds great. Thank you so much. And, I told her the price, and she said, that's fine. And she understood about the urine and everything and the dog. So I felt way better, and we did the job. But the thing is I've seen more and more and more. I've gone into customers' houses totally. These people seemed fine on the phone. These people seemed like everything was good, only to find out that they have, now this is not me making fun because it's a serious thing. I had a grandfather, my dad's dad passed away with Alzheimer's, so I've been through it. But these people had, severe dementia or Alzheimer's, but not everybody would you just know it right off. We've got a friend right now, a friend of mine, my dad's friend. He's really bad with it. If you just spend a few minutes with him, you really wouldn't know. It might take you 15 or 20 minutes to figure it out. And I've seen this more and more. This is not the only situation that I've dealt with this. So just so you know, guys, there's a lot of that out there, and you might run into that. So that's another crazy story.
Yeah. Well, we could definitely have a bunch more, but we got to wrap it up here. Running out of our time. But guys, if you got a funny story you want to share with us, you can email us at cleaningprofessionalspodcast@gmail.com. You can also, if you click on the bottom of this link, leave us a voice message, and who knows when we play it in a future episode. But email us or leave us a voice message with your craziest stories. We'd love to hear it. And Patrick, anything to say before we go?
I think I've said all I need to say. We appreciate you guys listening, and check us out on YouTube too. So if you're listening to the podcast, watch our actual videos. They're recorded now. So if you want to see Incest's beautiful faces, you can see that too. But yeah, that's about it.
All right. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Now. So I'll start us off. What's the name of our podcast?
You know what to say. Welcome back to the Cleaning Professionals Podcast.